surprises, and great expectations. I did a survey at the Christmas party, and people suggested classes to give, and about 5 or 6 of them came back with how do you sharpen a hand tool. So I'm going to show you how to sharpen a hand tool, the tools that you want to use, how to go about it, why you would go about it. First of all, never leave a hand tool out in the weather. That's what you get. These are salvageable though. Don't throw them out. A little bit of liquid wrench, white lithium. Just let it sit, and you'll be surprised at how well. We're going to set it in here because it's going to get all over everything. Those things will be moving smooth in about a half hour. Anyway, so why would we want to keep our pruning shears clean?
So you don't spread germs.
Keep them sharp. You won't spread germs. They won't lock up. I actually used these today on a jasmine, and they usually spring right open, but now they're kind of stuck because of that jasmine sap. So they won't spread disease. They'll stay sharper. They'll work better, and they'll last longer. Sand is the biggest culprit of dulling a tool. So if you get it down, well, that stuff stinks. If you get it down in the sand, which I do all the time because I got to cut a lot of grass around beds and stuff, clean them out. Clean them out. So there's a few things that I do to keep them clean. Now I literally use these shears all month and do not clean them. These are some nasty looking shears. See all that rust and debris and everything on it? Well, the first thing you want to do before you sharpen is you want to clean off any plant material. And you'll be surprised at what comes off. Because plant material has sap in it. And it's a lot easier to take a flat blade. I use the razor knife, utility knife, and get off as much of that. You're not making it pretty yet. You're just taking off the excess gunk on it, basically. Okay, once you get the gunk off pretty good, then you're going to want to use the good old sandpaper. I'm going to try to do this where you can see it. I might have a mess I have to clean up later.
We'll do it.
Careful, because these are blades, and even though they need to be sharpened, they still can cut you. So what you want to do is just get all that rust off, because rust can ruin a pair of shears in a heartbeat too. I'm not going to be able to do it all right now, but I'm going to show you the difference in them after you get the rust off. And this is just basically wood sandpaper. I have metal sandpaper up here too. And I actually like that one better, but I was using that on another tool that I'm going to show you. Always have a rag. Wipe that rust off, because rust will reestablish and grow. It is a reaction to the metal.
What grade of sandpaper are you using?
I use whatever I can get a hold of. I like the less fine because it's not going to cut into your metal. So I wouldn't use a rasping type that has big sand on it. So just something that's going to remove that.
So you say less fine?
I want them finer.
You want them fine?
Less coarse.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
I got
Less coarse.
Iron number.
But anyway, you get it cleaned off. Now see the difference? Just a little bit of sanding. If you do that, I do mine once a week. However, they weren't done this week because I was saving them to show you. Once you get this part done, this is your saving grace right here. 3-in-1 penetrating oil. All you need, of course, wipe it off real good or you'll have a really brown surface. All you do is just a couple drops. And the reason I'm putting this on is because this particular shears has a grabbing side, so this is rough, it's not a cutting blade. It has like ripples. Now this side, I would file the blade down before I would put the oil on. That oil's actually the last thing you're gonna do. That open cap. That helps. Put a little bit on there, and just rub it. Just a slight coating on it. Then that rust won't grow. You can put them away to next use. But you did the whole thing, but I'm not going to do it because I don't have time to. But I just wanted to show you what it should look like and what it looks like if you don't do that. Now, as far as plant gunk, this is the one I used for the jasmine today. You take that same knife, I don't know if you can see that, but there's all kinds of stuff falling off of this shears. And jasmine's really, really tough. It'll get on you too. Once you get that off, I'm going to show you using the metal sandpaper. Very fine black. Again, be very careful not to come across the blade. Blood don't do chip clippers any good either. And it could hurt. And these are my high dollar clippers. These are like $85 5 years ago, so I don't know what they would cost you now. So you don't want to let these get all messed up. Okay, again, once they got a shine, you're going to want to sharpen them. When you're using a sharpener on clippers, it's very difficult to use sharpening tools. I'll show you some sharpening tools and some other types of tools, but you want to use a file. If you have burrs, like where you got a little nick on them that's raised above the cutting edge, you would use a rasp. A rasp is much rougher surface. Oh, it's on the other side of this one. So I knew I had one. Okay, so it's a little bigger grooves, and you would just go same direction you're going to file in and take those burrs off. And all you got to do is just a little bit like that. Not a big deal. Okay, then you want to use the bastard file, which is double crisscross. And it's called that. I'm not cussing. It's called a bastard. And they come in different sizes. I like this one for when I can just stick it in my pocket and carry it around. Don't put it in a front pocket because if you bend over, you're going to gut yourself. So, because it has a...
Don't get your car with it in your back.
No. So when you're sharpening, you want to secure your tools. It's nice if you have a vise that you can put them in. Without a vise, it's a little more difficult, but it can be done by hand. You would put it in a secure area and get your angle right. Usually the angle's like this. And only sharpen one side. Never sharpen both sides of any type of a clipper. However, knives and machetes, you sharpen both sides. Because they have a cutting blade on both sides. So it has the flat, and the reason it's flat on this side is because it's bypassing your handle and making a clean cut. If you file both sides, take a metal off, you're going to have a gap, and then you're going to have a torn up branch because it's not going to have a clean cut. So only sharpen the cutting side of your blade. Generally, there's an angle on them. However, sometimes nowadays you get tools and they're not angled at all, and you have to angle them. Those are like professional tools. I guess they think you know everything about sharpening them. And all you do is start at the back, at that angle, and it's a nice steady push. In a vise, you can actually use two hands and get a little harder push. It'll sharpen quicker. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but see where the silver is? And then you test it very carefully with your fingers. And see if there's any burrs on this side. There's no burrs on it. Sometimes they work with burrs, especially if you're doing a shovel. And you only sharpen one side of a shovel, the inside part. It's tempered steel, and if you do both sides, you're weakening your cutting point. So only sharpen one side of a shovel, one side of a hoe. But that's all it takes, just that little bit. Put the oil on that. Just a dab will do you. And because this was jasmine, I'm going to give it a little blast of the lithium down inside. Oops. I got my hand pretty good. Okay, and you can see that now they're moving pretty good. And the other thing is take that spring off, get a little bit of oil on your hand, and do it by hand. Just push it back and forth so that oil goes down in between these little rings of the spring, and then put the spring immediately back in, because sure as anything else, you're going to lose it. Once you get it in, give it a good closing, or close it all together and lock it up, and just leave it sit like that. Okay? Now they're good for the next time. Same thing with any other type. I'm not going to do them all, but I just want to show you. This is the same thing as your bypass clippers. It is a clipper, long handled. There. I love this thing.
Oh, wow.
You can get those plants that's hard to reach. Come on. Where's the lock? Oh, there it is. Okay. Great little tool. I use it to prune taller plants, and when I worked at this, where I found out about them, I use them at Disney World to cut the roses, and you can actually get them where they have, I took this one off because I'm using it for something else, but it has another handle on the top part, and it's called a cut and grip. So you cut it, and you bring it back to your bucket or to your cart, and you don't lose them. You don't have to go back in with your hands and pick up any rose trimmings. So that's, it's an extended clippers. This one, I think this one is 6 foot, maybe 7. Maybe, I'm only 5, so maybe 7. But it's a great little tool, very, very handy. And now, the older I get, the less I can bend over, so I have to use all these little shortcuts. Same thing with these, and always put that little bit of oil when you're done. Now this one has a couple burrs on it, so you'd have to use the rasping part of the file. Take those burrs right off the same way you would do to sharpen it. Just hear that? That's the metal coming off. These are pretty sharp. I must have cut something low. Might have cut a wire or something with it. Anyway, then there's other tools that you can use. Same as, remember I told you this one had a rough surface? So you can only sharpen one side. Do not sharpen the back of the roughness. That's a gripper so that the branch stays put. Your cutting blade is here. This side would be the cutting blade. So you're going to sharpen the cutting side of that one blade. And then when you're using these, and I like these too because when I do grasses, they extend. I don't have to bend over anymore. So tools are very, very important, and they're making them so well now that they really make your job a lot easier. You can even get them with gears so you don't have to use your arms as much. Those are nice. So other tools that you could use, yeah, what do you have to say about this one?
That you suggested that I buy that, and now lots of people have one. It's only like $10.
And she loves it.
If you don't have a file, it's something you buy for $10.
And for that much, you know, if you can use it for a lot of things, but you use it the same way as you would the other ones, but it's more like a stone. It's a flat surface. Okay? But all you do is rub that around your edge, and it keeps it soft. And then the good thing about this is it can go right in your back pocket.
What's it called?
Corona, she's got the container. Corona solid carbon sharpening tool.
Get it,
Carbon? No, Corona, I'm sorry. Yeah, solid carbine sharpening tool, made by Corona. She said Ace Hardware?
Yes.
Sometimes you can find these at Home Depot or Lowe's, but not always. So that's a nice one. And then here's another one that I picked up today. This has like a fingernail file on it. It's like I guess you could do your fingers too while you're doing your tools. But you use it the same way. At the angle and just from the back of the blade to the front of the blade. Another one that can go right in your pocket. The only problem if you don't put it in your pocket, you may leave it in the garden. So keep a hold on them or do your maintenance after you work up at your shed or your tool shed or somewhere else. But these little tools come in handy and they make your job a whole lot easier. This is one that I just got today. This one works the same idea, but this is called a diamond. It has two different grades, so rougher grade and not, so I guess it depends on the size of your blades. You would do the same thing.
I just think blade have a hole in it.
Here? I don't know.
A lot of them do.
So you can hang it up? I don't know. Don't know that purpose. To put bling on it. So all you do is the same thing. Now you don't have to go at that angle, you can just go up the blade with this one. And it makes it nice and sharp. This you can find at Home Depot. This one at Home Depot. Now I didn't have any tools that had double bladed sides. So if you're going to sharpen a knife, knives have a cutting blade on both sides. So to do a knife, there's other tools, like this one. You would secure your knife in like a vise, and all you do is run this one down the blade. But it cuts both sides. See the V cut? That means it's sharpening both sides. Do not use this on clippers. However, they do have one for clippers. One side's straight, one side's angled. So if you're going to use this type with your clipper, you want to make sure that the angle blade, that's a little hard to do on that one, is on the side that you need to file. So it's going to be coming straight across the back, and then it's angled on the top. So all these little tools, they don't cost much, but they can make your job a whole lot easier. So y'all can come up and look at all these after we're done. But the other thing, if you should get your cutting and you cut something that is diseased, okay, have a little hand sanitizer with you. This will kill any disease right away. You won't spread it to further on that plant or to another plant. I know that we have roses, you have black spot maybe on one rose or whatever, or maybe a dieback, and you're going to clip it. Clean your clippers before you go to a healthy tree, because you will be the vector. You will spread that disease. So you want to make sure that you take care of that. So always have a little hand sanitizer in your tool pouch. There's other things like, somebody have a question?
No, I just wondered what that was. Did you say the hand sanitizer?
This is just something I picked. They were selling them at Rural King, and they couldn't sell them. So I got 20 little tubes for 5 cents a piece. I look for bargains. So then you have tools like this. How many people have bought a saw like this? You love it, right? But if you don't clean it, and there's two, what I like to do is take a wire brush, get all the stuff out of those teeth, and then take a paintbrush, get it all out before you put your oil on it. Now you do not have to put oil down in between the teeth. All you gotta do, put a little oil on there, get it on both sides, and do this number. You're not gonna get cut, and it'll get enough oil on the blade inside those teeth. If you try doing this, you're gonna cut your finger, and you try doing this, you're gonna cut your finger. So pull towards the blade to get that oil spread. okay? And make sure you get both sides.
Do you ever have to sharpen those teeth? Because I have not.
I have not yet, but I've seen some that other people have that they should. Now, if you do, you're gonna have to use that small file. I don't even know if this is small enough, but there is some smaller. But the problem is you gotta get the right side that you're sharpening, because it's called a tiger tooth, and you have to push against that, then you have to flip it over and do the other side. So it's a little pain in the butt to sharpen, but like she said, you don't really have to sharpen them. If you clean them after each thing and put a little oil on this thing's gonna last you a long time.
And don't stick it in the
And don't
middle while
leave-
you're sawing.
Don't put them in sand, and when you're doing it, so it's called a pull cut. So you're gonna loosen your push on the blade to go into the tree, push down and pull out. So it's cutting coming back. If you do this number and that blade binds, your hand's going right in there, and if that blade is there and nothing to block it, your hand's gonna go right into that blade, and I'll guarantee you it's probably a trip to the ER. So just let it cut coming back. Loose, pull, loose, pull. Okay? Very, very good tool. I can cut branches this big with this. Takes a little arm after you. My arm gives out before the saw does, so I have to rest the shoulder. But very important to keep these clean. And you're not going to do it just by wiping it off. A little wire brush. These, they were 3 for like $4 and something at Home Depot, or you can buy 1 for $3 and something. So I bought 3, and I shared one. I gave Gail one for her little tool over here that she brought in for me to show. Now the one pair, this is a pair of grass trimmers. Or this was the original edger before we got the gas-powered edgers. This is what they were done with, something just like this. But it's really good to do like Liriope, daylilies and stuff like that, because you just go in and cut all the way around. But it also has the bypass clippers. Sharpen only one side of each one of these blades. Do not sharpen the flat side. You will damage your cut. Not the tool. The tool will last, but it's not going to cut as well as if it was still had that flat surface there. And don't do something too big to where you'll warp them, because once these warp out of shape, they don't cut very good. This one has a nice spring on it, so it could probably take a little more, but eventually, any of these loppers, the shears, all those, you don't want to over do them to where you're pulling the blade apart. So only take what the blade can cut. You don't want to go into that Liriope and go right up into the middle and get this much of it. You want to just do a couple inches at a time all the way around. So very important on how you use your tools too. Scissors, same thing. They have a different type of a cutting blade. They have a flat side. I guess some of them could have sharpening on both sides, but this one you wouldn't sharpen at all. You're only sharpening the one side, but it's not, it has a surface there, but you only want to sharpen the one. So you would use that little file, and just like anything else, just come across it at an angle. Make sure you get the right side. And all you do is just. Now remember, when you're sharpening tools, there's going to be wire debris, metal debris, wherever you're sharpening at. So put something down or wipe it up real good, not with your hands. If you've ever had metal in your hand, it is very, very hard to get out. You won't even see it. It'll fester, and then you've got an infection. So wipe down the area after you're done working. This is a pair of clippers that I don't think anyone should own. These are called anvils. What an anvil cutter is it has a cutting blade, okay? Here's your cutting blade, but then it has a flat blade. So you're actually squashing your trimmings. So anvil type cutters, you want to bypass. You want those shears to bypass the bottom, okay? See where they bypass? It's making a clean cut. If it's coming down and hitting another surface flat, it is not a good pair of clippers to have. I would suggest donating them, leaving them out, bury them. You can bury them, but don't use them on your plants, because it's gonna cut it first, but then it's gonna crush the end of it. And if you're cutting it for getting rid of, that's one thing. But if you're leaving the plant, you're gonna have damage to the tip of that plant. So you're gonna have damage not only to the cambium, but also to the phloem and the xylem, and it's gonna take 3 times longer to heal, and that 3 times longer gives disease enough time to get into your plant. Clean cuts, okay, clean cuts. If a tree gets scraped or chewed by an animal and it's all jaggy, take a knife out there and what they say scoring the wound. You want to make the wound as round as possible, all the way down to the hardwood. Because if you leave that part that's been scraped and is not attached to the wood, it's only going to hinder the cambium's production, and that's what heals. So you want to cut that all the way back to the wood, and that way the cambium can start to heal and move inward, making a wound, sealing it up.
So you cut it back and remove the stuff on top?
Where, like if it's scraped by
Yeah.
a lot of times a lawnmower,
No.
okay, they'll scrape your tree, but it's a jagged surface. So you want to make it round because the cambium comes in from all sides. So if it's jaggy on both ends
I
and
get
round
what
on the
you're saying.
outside, but the bark is still sitting there, you're going to hinder its wound, its healing. So to make the healing shorter and cleaner and healthier, just score it out.
Okay.
Okay, what else we got here?
I've got an anvil trimmer that the blade goes into a channel, so it's not like hitting metal, but that.
This has a channel, this has a channel. You're still crushing at the very end, but it's not as bad as this flat anvil. But I would still suggest buying a pair of clippers.
Mine are ratcheting, so I really like them.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, those are nice. Those ratchet ones are nice. Okay, any questions on how to sharpen a tool? So a few things you want to buy, huh?
I have a question. That's very simple. I want to remember how to hold this. I knew it one time because you gave a speech about this while back. But when I hold this, which curve is up and which curve is down? Just show me.
Where the blade is against the tree.
You mean on a pair of clippers?
Yes. Yes.
Whenever you're cutting,
Yes.
this is your cutting blade.
Yes.
It's angled.
Yes.
This is your bypass blade.
Yes.
So you put the cutting blade into the plant,
Mhm.
and you just cut just like that. Now, if you put it the other way around, and you have the bypass against the tree, you're gonna make a clean cut, but you're gonna have a nub. And that cambium has to climb up that nub to heal.
So it doesn't matter which direction.
No, as long as the cutting blade is against where you're keeping it. So if you're taking a branch off of a tree, if this was a branch, I'd be cutting this way. This is my trunk.
Yes.
I would put the cutting blade to the trunk and cut there.
Ah.
So always keep the cutting blade to the part of the plant you're keeping, not the part you're throwing away.
Cutting blade to the trunk. That I
Yeah.
get. Thank you very much. I try to remember it with what.
Call me up, I'll tell you.
Okay.
And Barb, should we be, actually, when we're done, with our yard work, should we clean all of our tools, all of them, so it won't be spreading the disease?
If you know you have diseases, leaf spot's not so much, but it's dieback, some of the fungi or bacterial diseases. If you have a, God forbid, if you have a tree that has canker, you don't want to spread that because that's spread by clippers.
What kind of canker?
Huh?
What kind of canker?
Citrus canker. It was years ago, and some people still have their trees. I've seen some with the canker, and they just die back a little bit each year, but they hang on to it because they get 4 or 5 fruit each year. Any more questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter which, that's what I needed to know.
Okay, and then if you should have a chainsaw, these are portable chainsaws, they're battery operated. This one is Gales. Has a little cover to protect the blade. And then to use it, you would hold the safety down, and these little things can cut a lot. The trick is to keep the oil on the blade because they can heat up and do damage to the chain. So this one comes with a little thing of oil that she uses, and you just put it right on the chain. Some of them actually are coming now with a little reservoir like a regular chainsaw, and you put that in there. Some of them have a button to expose, push the oil out on the chain. But this is very, very easy, lightweight. This is so light, it's like, what, 3 pounds maybe? And it can do some cutting. I've cut, well, you can actually cut a branch that's wide. But remember, it's a chainsaw and that's a tree branch. So if you're taking a tree down, just a small tree, you want to go at an angle because you do not want to get this thing jammed up under a tree and have to push the tree off because you can damage your chain. And if you bend the bar, it's a new bar. So be very, very careful with using these. They're great tools, wonderful little things. I know that Gail loves hers. And to sharpen them, you need to use a rounded file. Because, and you only sharpen, if somebody y'all want to come up and look at this closer, there's a guide part of the chain and a cutting part of the chain. And you only want to do the cutting part of the chain. You don't touch the guide at all. And that's what this is not small enough, or I would give it to her. It's not small enough for her chain. But you can find them in different sizes. Usually they were sold out, so I had to go to the hardware department, and this is actually a rounded file, a 6-inch rounded file for getting out debris. When you're drilling in the metal, this clears the debris out so that when you're putting the bolt in, you're not putting that metal into your fingers. But it's the same idea. It's a round file that you would file the chainsaw with.
And they actually make a holder for that makes it easier to file with.
Yeah.
So if you just try to file with the file itself, it's hard to get the right angle, but if you did put in the holder, then it works a lot better.
Yeah, they do have one that has a holder on it, a lot easier to use. Just whenever you're doing that, make sure the battery's out. You don't want it to go on while you're filing it, okay? So very, very important. Excellent little tool, can cut your work time in half, especially if you're using something like this one. You don't have to go this way. It takes a little time. These babies are very, very good to you, but it would be a lot easier if you were cutting a bunch of branches and you have something like that to where you went over to your shoulder. Because our shoulders can be abused very, very easily.
And you said two.
So it comes in a kit with a battery charger, a battery, the oil, and I added a brush to clean it, and glasses. So please, if you're gonna buy one of these, it's a Still GTA 26. If you're gonna buy one, it's about $150. Well worth it.
Yeah, mine was a little smaller. It was only $86, but it didn't have a kit.
Well, and mine, does yours have a guard on it, Barbara?
No, it didn't have a bar cover on it.
No,
They're
I
the
mean
same
guard
brand?
over the top,
Guard.
like mine does.
Yes.
Okay.
I think legally they have to, because if the chain should break, it's gonna come back and slap you, so that's the reason for those guards up top. She's talking about this part here. It protects debris and the chain if it should come off the bar, or if it should break, it's only gonna come to here and stay there. It's not gonna come back and hit you.
One thing you gotta be careful is those things tend to want to jump.
Yeah, get a good grip on them.
You've gotta put a good pressure hold down on your branch, or it's gonna
Yeah.
it'll bounce off the branch.
And it's not advisable to use little teeny tiny twigs. Don't use this on that. Use a pair of clippers or your handsaw. Because a little twig is gonna jump around here and it could actually get your chain off the bar. So this is for real cutting, not twig cutting.
And
Okay?
especially if you don't wanna have to ask your husband for help.
You haven't had any problem with pruning, have you?
Any other questions?
Yes.
We're actually over a little bit. Okay, if there's no more questions, I hope that helped everybody out. And you're more than welcome in between the break here, come up here and ask any questions with the tools here so you can see them closer. I'll stay up here.